All right, so I'm going to show you my new compost heap for manure in my new worm box, which is a 55-gallon box, and shit's legit. So hang on just a second. All right, so sorry, make y'all dizzy. So I went to a friend's house today who owns a horse farm, and I picked up about what was two 10-gallon buckets and a 20-gallon tote of just straight horse shit. And she has one horse that has a dietary issue, so she can only feed it peanut hay and just alfalfa hay. So that's what this is in here, just straight organic. This horse can't eat any oats or anything like that. It's got a bad gut. So we took all that and brought it over, and I split my piles between my kitchen scrap and yard waste compost, and then my hot straight manure compost. I'm going to combine these. Once they start to cook, I'm going to combine them. But mostly I'm going to use most of this horse shit, manure. Sorry, Mama. I'm going to use the rest of this horse manure for my worms, which are over here. And RJ and I connected all these pallets together, made this one unit. And then the floor I covered in screen, so that way it's not really a matter of if the worms get out of some of these holes, but when. You can see I've got ventilation holes all around the side, and there's holes in the bottom here where you can see some of that water's draining out there. So when they get out, they won't get out of the top side here, but they will get out of the bottom holes. I've lined the inside with screen, just like you see I lined the bottom here with screen. So it'll slow them down from getting out. But when they get out, I'm going to close this front off with a door. You don't see it yet, but I'm going to build a door out of these extra pallets and this scrap wood over here to keep them in. So I'll screen the insides of these walls here and screen all the insides there so that when the worms get out, they'll be contained. Also put this, I went to Walmart and got a floor vent for the AC and cut it into the top, so that way the worms will keep fresh air circulating through there, because they don't want to get too hot, because everything you're doing inside your worm bin is composting. So if it gets too hot, that compost will actually start to cook and you'll kill off your worms. So when I open this up, you can see here I've sort of separated it. On the right side is, let me back out some, on the right side is where the manure is, so the worms will travel over there to eat, and on the right side here is where all my worms are. So I'll show you those in a second. The base of this is actually made out of coconut coir, or COIR, coir, whatever. And I bought this in a block. It looked like a brick, really. Soaked it in the wheelbarrow for a little bit, and it gave me about, 15 gallons of base for the worms to go into. So this is just a burlap. They call it a worm blanket. You can make it out of jute, you can make it out of burlap, whatever, but this is just some fiber I got from the Ace Hardware up the street here. And you can see what they like to do is they like to nestle in there, because this stuff keeps it wet. So worms breathe through their skin, so if they get dry, they'll suffocate and die. So anytime you see a dead worm on the sidewalk, they look like they've been cooked. That doesn't take long at all. All they got to do is dry out, and that's it for them. So they will bed inside of this. You can see all these worms moving around here. I've got about 600 to 800 worms, all different sizes. You can see they're all kicking and moving. So all this stuff on this side is compost from the heap that I showed y'all a minute ago, that they like to roll around in. So I've got some carrot scraps in here, because worms will eat vegetables, dirt, leaf litter, all that stuff. And you can see I've got some fat worms in here too. These are some of my older worms from the small box, but that one's kind of short actually. But so the organic mix that I've got for them, worms actually love coffee grounds, so I'll go to Starbucks and get free bags of used coffee grounds. They keep them right by the front door. Here's a good bunch of them. So these black dots you see all over the place, that is why I'm growing the worms. So these are not coffee grounds, these are worm castings. It's worm poo, but it's the best fertilizer there is. It's completely organic. The worms break it down till these really, really tiny pellets. And this black stuff here goes for about $3 to $6 a pound. These itty bitty pellets you see. So if I want to go to the nursery or to the greenhouse up the road here and get this, it's going to cost me $30 to $50. Whereas, you know, a few hundred worms will cost you, you know, about $20, $25. This burlap material I got here cost me maybe $5. And everything else just comes right out of the kitchen, already recycled and all that stuff. So it's relatively cheap to do it, so long as you can get a free source of food for them. So kitchen scraps, whatever. I go with the manure because I'm going to be using this for the garden, and I really want to get as much organic material into these worms as possible. Not to mention the fact that it's just Julie and I eating here, so we only have but so many kitchen scraps. Especially with our new diet, we can't eat too much anyway, so it would take us a lot longer to sustain these worms, or it'd be a lot more difficult to sustain these worms on our limited diet. They can't eat protein powder, so there's no point. But you can see them all in here. There's a bunch of worms, and what they do, you see how they're all balled up like this. This is how they mate. So they all just get together and they ball up. When the conditions are right, you'll find them in huge clumps like this, and they're just banging. Sorry, mama, but that's what they're doing. So they get together and they mate, and they will actually double their population in about 30 to 60 days. So if I've got 600 to 800 of them now, in the next couple of months, I'll have, you know, almost a couple thousand of them, 1,500 of them, and just keep going. Once I get more worms, I'll put more stuff in here, and I'll keep feeding them this poo. So you split it so that they'll travel over here and eat, and then once I see that this pile's been broken down all the way, then I'll actually move and put food over here. Because once they break it down over here, they're going to get used to living on this side. So then I'll put the food over there to get them to move back over, and just keep filling this thing up from side to side with worm castings. So that's it. That's my worm box.